Hi, this is Pat McDonald, your host for Vote for Vermont, where our tagline is listening beyond the sound bites. Got a very special treat today, but first, Ben Kinsley is here, our co-host and co-producer. Hi, Ben, how are you?
Thanks, Pat. I'm good.
Well, our special guest is none other than Coach Mike McShane from the Norwich men's hockey team, just retired as the winningest coach ever, just about. Coach, welcome.
Thank you, Pat. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm really thrilled that you're on the show. So I told your wife, this will be a great coup if we can get the coach on the show.
So a little change of pace.
A little change of pace.
Yeah.
Because we always do politics, but I'm sure you've had some politics in your career.
Oh, yeah. Growing up where I grew up, there was a lot of politics. You know, we just came back from Cape Cod, and my sister gave me an envelope of memorabilia for my father.
Oh.
And in it was a written letter by John F. Kennedy thanking him for supporting him and coming to meet him in Boston. And my father ended up being a delegate. And
oh, my word, it's in your blood.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So now can we ask you if you're going to run in the future?
No, thank you.
Oh, come on, Coach. Anyway, we always ask our guests to talk a little bit about themselves. But because you have had 46 years total of coaching, how did you ever get into this? And when you grew up, why was this your passion, if it was?
I think as a little boy, I grew up playing sports, you know, and I had an older brother, which, you know, he was like my mentor. And back then there was like neighborhoods. We had small neighborhoods. And we had our own little rink that we built, and baseball field was right there. People say, do your parents know where you were during the day? No, they threw you out and you went out and you played, and you figured you know, if you had a problem with somebody, you figured it out. Right. One-on-one, and you didn't go home and tell your mother about it, or your father, because they really didn't care. So
same neighborhood I grew up in.
Work it out.
So I think, having said that, I was lucky enough to get into hockey because the neighborhood, a lot of the kids were playing hockey. Yeah. And then I just continued to follow my brother's footsteps and playing, and I got a passion for it. I just loved it. I mean, I used to sleep with my hockey skates and sticks or anything new, and I used to dream about playing in the National Hockey League, of course, and anytime there was a game on TV, I'd watch it and get psyched about playing, and certain numbers I wore, and you always had that dream of maybe playing or getting involved with the game later on, and you know, I didn't think about coaching, of course, until after I got through playing, but all along I wanted to be in the game. I just loved it so much and was competitive, and I had some success at it.
You shot some successes.
Some may be an understatement, yeah. Well, this is kind of on that same line of thought. Did you have any like teams that were your favorite teams growing up that you really kind of followed and inspired you?
Well, I'm coming from Boston. The Bruins were our team. Unfortunately, when I was younger, the Bruins were awful. I mean, this is before Bobby Orr showed up and so forth. But the Celtics were great in Boston. They were winning championships, but you could get a ticket to the Celtics game, but you couldn't get a ticket to the Bruins games because Boston was a hockey town back then. And my father once in a while would get tickets and we'd go in and watch, and I'd get excited about that, obviously. And then, you know, all of a sudden, you know, you see a couple of Bruins games, and then he'd bring me in to watch Boston College play BU, and the Bean Pot we went in to watch when I was younger. So then, you know, as you're getting older, you're playing like Bantam, Pee Wee. Now you think maybe you can make the high school team, which I love watching the older high school. And then when my brother was a little bit older than I was, I used to watch. He played at Malden Catholic, which was a rival of Wakefield, and it was a private school. And I used to go in and watch them play because they were terrific. And I went to Wakefield, though. My loyalty was my hometown, and played for Wakefield High School. And later I went on to Tabor Academy for a couple of years and enjoyed that tremendously. And I was very fortunate to get a scholarship to New Hampshire. Right. I looked at BC, BU, and I did have opportunities to go to a lot of schools. And New Hampshire was the last school I visited. And sometimes, you know, I use that now recruiting. You know, bring the recruit in last. You know, get them the last. Yeah, sure. That's how I made my decision. So, I had a great trip up there. I roomed with a kid from Minnesota, Ryan Brandt, who's still a good friend of mine, and it just went on. You know, I played there, and I was very lucky to play with a lot of good players. We had great success. I had a great coach in Charlie Holt, just a tremendous, legendary coach, and that I think got me really going as far as the coaching goes. He was. He always had new ideas, and he was very bright, and he anticipated well and stuff. And I loved his strategy every time before we played a game, and I bought into that. And you know, I had 4 years there and did well. And I was fortunate enough to go to Exeter Academy and coach for a year for George Crow, a great coach and great mentor. Then I went to New Hampton School.
Is coaching something that you, I don't think you can. I think this is an OJT skill, correct? I mean, you have mentors that you go to school, but what do they teach you? It's I don't know how to ask this question.
The strategies and stuff, and the
strategies, I guess.
techniques, and the the basic abilities in the game, and obviously conditioning's huge, and being a good person too,
Right.
and living up to your responsibility. At UNH, you're big in the community. You're a big figure. That is the #1 sport at the school.
Right.
A lot of fans go there. A lot of people get involved. Alumni take pride
That's
in it.
great.
So you've got some responsibilities there, and you better live up to them,
Yeah.
or you won't be around.
Well, I think we'll skip to Norwich soon, but the Norwich Cadets and all of your players, they're so involved in the community. That really is a big thing, I think.
I think it's very, very important. When I took the job over at Norwich, there was a little discomfort between the locals and Norwich, and I don't think the cadets and so forth would go out and raise hell at night and the weekends, and
Right.
a lot of locals weren't thrilled about that. So the support for the hockey team wasn't there with our local community. And I had certain goals to say, hey, how am I going to bring the community into? So we did, and we were fortunate enough to do enough things with the community. Of course, we won almost right away.
Right.
And we did a lot of things with the youth hockey programs. That's how it starts. So we did clinics, free clinics,
Right.
and went to Barrie. We did stuff here. We went to Montpelier. And then all of a sudden people began to say, this is a nice operation.
Right.
Then the year we tore down our old rink, Taylor Arena, and that year we went to Barrie and played in Barrie.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
That's right.
And at first that was a negative, because it was 5:30 in the morning, and who wants to get up
Ooh.
at 5:30 and pray? I didn't mind it at first,
Yeah.
but after a while it got old. But behind it, all our games were played there. People from Barrie were going to all our
Right,
games.
right.
And then after the games, Gusto's was good enough to, after game get-togethers and so forth. So everybody went there. So we got those people involved.
That's
The
what you
next year, we opened a new rink, and everything started going
Awesome,
in the
awesome.
right direction.
That's very
great.
cool. And I guess our next question kind of rolls right into that one as well. You coached at a number of different schools before coming to Norwich. New Hampton Prep, Dartmouth College, St. Lawrence, Providence College, just to name a few. What made Norwich so different that you stuck at Norwich for more than half of your coaching career?
Well, the shoe fits, wear it. That was part of it. Really, I had a good feeling from Norwich right from the beginning. I was going to get out of coaching. I finished at Providence, and then I worked for the Ottawa Senators for 1 year as a consultant, and I was going to go the pro route. My kids were younger, and I went through a divorce, and I felt that I needed to be around them. I think it was very important at their age. So I was trying to figure out maybe coach at a prep school, get them in there, have their education paid for. And as it worked out, the Norwich situation came up, and my son came up to school here, which was nice. My daughter was in prep school. I got to visit her there. So that had played a big role in it for my family situation. And it certainly satisfied my compassion for the sport and passion for it, and competitiveness. I knew when I came up here, and I'd been up to Norwich before. When I coached New Hampton, we used to play the JV team. So I knew the school,
Nice,
and I
nice
knew
area.
Tony, and I knew the environment up here, and I liked it. I interviewed. I loved the kids. I loved meeting them, their discipline and their attitude. They were hungry to win. And so at first, I had a good feeling. And that first year, I coached at Norwich. We went 500. And everybody said, geez, that must have been I said, no, it's one of the best seasons I ever had. The kids were absolutely fabulous. We were rebuilding. We only had 3 lines. They played hard. We had 3 or 4 big upsets. We won a tournament. It was a great foundation for things to come.
And you have never had a losing season at Norwich.
Right.
You always managed to have winning seasons, even despite some of the diversity, with coming into a new team and even going through remaking an arena. But it seems like maybe you hit it at a time where the school was willing to invest in the program and kind of bought into the vision that you had for it.
I had a lot of support. Without support, you go nowhere.
For sure.
And at Norwich, right from the get-go, Charlie Holden was big in that. He was a trustee, former player at Norwich, and a referee, Division I referee, who I used to have a lot. And we were on the same committees together.
Oh, nice.
Selection committees, NCAA committees. So I got to know Charlie very well. And he called me when the job opened and asked me if I knew of anybody that might be interested. At the time, I wasn't, but after getting to know the particulars, the new rink being built and so forth, the priority of the program and the tradition at Norwich goes way back to 1909, which is incredible. How many schools had a team in 1909? They had a rink in 1951. BU didn't have a rink in 1950. So you put all those things together, and sometimes you walk into a situation. It was right.
Mine.
It was there to take.
Yeah.
And it was, and having President Snyder with his enthusiasm,
I love
Tony.
him. He's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Rich Hansen was there as the vice president. All of them were doing everything they could to help me. And so therefore we got couple of good recruiting classes. We won, and
Well, there was one thing that I read about you with all the articles since you announced your retirement, that the hockey team, their scholastics were always high, and not only did they play hard, but they studied hard and were successful.
We've been very
that's great.
fortunate. Well, starting out, Mark Bolden was my first assistant, and he did a nice job recruiting. Pat Norton came on after him, and we had a couple others since then, and Steve Matz has been with me for years. Our priority is that we recruit the player that's going to fit into Norwich. And number one, if he's a real good student, we have engineering there, so we've had a number of engineers, the faculty are going to buy into it. They're always going to, and if you need a favor here and there, if your kids are doing well in school, they're doing well with the community, and you're winning, you're more apt to get that. And so we wanted to get the trust of, obviously, the president, and your vice president, your AD, and then your faculty. Right. And then, of course, we were doing stuff in the community at the time, so it became a great marriage.
Is there, I've got so many questions with so many statistics. I'm just going to read a few. So you led the Cadets to 19 NEHC titles, appeared in 16 NCAA tournaments, and were part of the Frozen Four 12 times. You're going to have to explain that to me. But the question really is, out of all the teams you led and awards you earned, are there any particular years or players or events that really stand out to you that you'll take with you?
Oh yeah, there's plenty, and the 4 national championship teams, obviously, but there were other teams that were just as good. Yeah. And just for a bounce here and a bounce there, we didn't win. And in 2002, we went over to Middlebury, and they were ranked 1. We knocked them off in the semifinal 5-2, and we played absolutely outstanding hockey. The next night, we played Superior, Wisconsin. We played almost a perfect game. They hadn't had a shot on net in the third period, and a kid took a shot, a ricochet off one of our kids' stick, and went in. They tied, and they won in overtime. It was like they came in with like bandits and stole the game. Yeah. Those things happen, and it was a tough loss. We had a great season, but it hurt. Yeah. The next year, the kids came back with a little bit of an edge and vengeance, and we ended up coming back. Being down 4 games in the playoffs, all 4 games being down and behind. One game we were down with Trinity 4-1 with about 12 minutes left in the game. And we came back and won the game. Wow. And we had a sold-out crowd at Christburg. They just went absolutely berserk. Then we hosted the championship games, and we were down to St. Norbert, came back, won that game. And the final game, we were playing Oswego. We were down 1-0 with 10 minutes left. But in between the second and third period, I heard our captain yelling and screaming at the guy, "This is not going to happen again." And it was quite emotional. Wow. And I walked out. I said, "I don't have to say anything." I don't need a coach. I just need to stay out of the way, right?
Let them.
Right.
Let them.
And they went out, and I knew. I just had a feeling. I said, just pat them on the back, keep them going. They're going to do it, and we won.
And your fans here follow you, don't they? Well,
Oh.
to all these games. I mean, I think you had the one championship game you had. There was just I don't know how many were there, but it was a record. Of
Well, the
sorts.
first championship, we went out to Wisconsin Superior,
Right.
and we were behind there 4-2 too, and we came back and won. And we had 3 busloads leave. They almost didn't make it. The story was they went up the hill and it was snowing.
Okay,
Came down, and the bus driver says, he said, I'm going to go one more time, and then we're going to have to call this off. And they back up, the lead one got up, and I think the maintenance came home and put some dirt.
Yeah.
Second one on, third
Wow.
one, and they had chartered a plane in Boston.
Oh.
Now, you don't go from Boston to Lake Wisconsin
Right.
Superior. You got to go stop here in Detroit, then go to Minnesota, then up to Duluth, and it's way up in God's country. But our team, we were warming up, and at the end, we came out almost, and they were late coming in, all these delays.
Yeah.
And they had the maroon shirts
Oh,
on, the
wow.
green hats. It was St. Patrick's Day, and they got some green hats, McShane's Army or something. And they come in and marched in together. Our kids were on the
Oh.
opposite side going.
Awesome.
And then we went behind 4-2, and I'm sure all of them saying, what the hell did we come out here for?
This is not what we do.
Get a snowmobile or something.
Yeah.
But we did come back, and the great story of that game was Casey Bullock. He was a fourth line player, had scored 1 goal all year, and I had one of my top guys get hurt, and I put him in the lineup, and he got 2 goals, the winning goal in overtime. And Dave Moody, who used to work,
Yes, right. we
Dave
know
Moody, Casey Bullock, screaming in and out in the radio. In the games, the television crew went in from Northfield to tape all that. So we got all that on
Oh,
record and
wow.
everything.
Awesome.
We brought it back, we showed all our fans. It was quite incredible.
That's great. Yeah, I read the story just went on and on about the fans that kept.
Oh,
That's
man,
amazing.
we had a party.
Yeah.
Did we have a party afterwards?
That's
I'm
nice.
sure. I made it to the championship game in 2017, and I know like it was out in Utica, and the Norwich fans outnumbered Trinity fans like
that's
4 to
right.
1.
Is that right?
4 to 1.
That's
Like
awesome.
you just look around the room and it's
Sure.
all
Purple.
maroon.
Oh, sure.
And it's just incredible the support that that Norwich has from the community and the fan base.
Well, last year's championship game at Utica, we came in and they were going to put us in a locker room right beside Trinity and I said, they had space down there. It's a beautiful rink, the American Hockey League team. So I got the guy who was the head of the selection committee, and he owed me because we were ranked #1, and we didn't even get a bye in the first round, which.
Wow.
And then we did this, and I never complained. So I grabbed him, I said, listen, I think you owe me one favor anyway. You screwed us kind of in the rankings and made us play a playing. I never called you, we never complained. But I want the best locker room in it. It was on the other side, by ourselves in the corner. So we took it over. We laid
yes.
everything out,
Yeah.
and we had the big sign there that we used above our locker, leave nothing behind. That was the motto of the kids of that year, leave nothing behind. And we taped it up in the wall and everything, and the kids pumped themselves up. So that was a great start to that.
Good deal.
That slogan perfectly encapsulates that team too, because when I think about that 2017 championship team, they definitely left everything on the ice. I mean, you got kids that you could just see the energy that they were pouring out every single time they got on the ice.
Yes, and what happened was, Ben, the year before was the first year we hadn't won the regular season championship in 21 years.
Yeah.
And those kids felt bad. They were embarrassed
sure.
about it. We had a good season.
Right.
Yeah, it was just.
We didn't, we had a young team, and the next year they were determined to bounce back, and they did. And we didn't have a great start either to the season.
No, it was a little rocky.
Yeah, we lost to Skidmore down there. We were behind, and we go into Castleton. We got 3 or 4 guys hurt, but the kids rallied. That was my 700th win. So I think that really the kids got emotional over the whole
Right,
thing more than I did, and we carried it. We never lost after that. And the kids played great, but leave nothing behind. The only thing we left behind was the sign.
That's for the next team.
You
Yeah.
call and say, he called, he says,
Could've taken
Coach,
it.
you know that sign you had, leave nothing behind? We've got it. Do you need it? I said, we don't need it
Yeah, but
anymore.
That's priceless.
That's the
I
only thing
love
we
it.
left behind.
Yeah,
It was
right.
like-
I love it.
So, well, we've kind of been talking about some of them, but are there any really funny stories or good stories that stick out to you from, the bus, the locker room?
The no girls on the bus
There's
rule?
the no
What's
girls
that?
on the bus rule, which we've heard about, has been broken once or twice.
Well, I don't know about that. Well, the first
gotta keep
championship
focused.
we won, the president, Schneider, invited us over his house for dinner. Just him and the team. And we had a nice dinner, and he asked Mike Ludwig, who's from Saskatchewan, northern Saskatchewan. He said, Mike, can you tell us a little bit about Saskatchewan? I really don't know much about it. He said, I can only tell you one thing. He said, a big advantage of living in Saskatchewan. He said, if your dog runs away, you can see him run away for 3 days.
A little flat up there.
Schneider looked at him, okay.
He's such a
But I
good
thought
guy.
that was
You won't run out of ice
No,
either.
exactly. You see them forever. And I know from Facebook, I know from your wife posts of pictures when you're always hosting the team for holidays and barbecues and stuff. And I think that's something that you guys, both of you, seem to really enjoy.
Well,
and
thank
that must,
God I got a wife that's
yeah.
a great cook
Yeah.
and enjoys that. I first saw that, it was before we were married. She said, you want to come over for dinner? I'm having a high school team over, girls' high school.
Ah.
It was the daughters. I said, sure. So I came in, and 30 kids march in the house with boots, crap all over the place and everything. And I said, when did you prepare for this? She said, this afternoon. Kate called me and said, you want to have the team over?
Nice.
Bing, bing, bang, bang, bum. And I'm watching it.
job.
I'm pretty impressed.
Yeah.
This is something else, how she puts this together. I said, you should direct our power play next year. Maybe we'll have a little better. So the organization of that was very impressive. And she did it a number of times, and she enjoys it.
Wow, it certainly looks so from
Yeah.
Facebook.
So,
you know.
so we've had a great time doing that. We've had a number of fans over, and of course the teams come over, and then the captains come over, and we've had the women's team over a number of times.
Nice.
And that's how you get to really know the kids.
Well, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
You find out
And
about
they
their
like to
family.
see you flipping the burgers and doing whatever, and I think that's important.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah, to get to know each other off the ice and to loosen up, and
Right.
I think it's very, very important.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%.
And there's a number of your players that have gone on to play hockey either in semi-pros or in the NHL. Some of them, Tom Fitzgerald, Craig Darby, Hal Gill. There's a bunch of them. Are there any that you really have followed, or any recent, more recent graduates?
I used to
that,
follow them all, it was fun. While I was coaching, it was hard. At St. Lawrence, I had a great player, Kent Carlson, played for the Montreal Canadiens. He left, I think, a year too early, but anyway, he went right up and played for the Canadiens, so we went up, it wasn't that far, St. Lawrence to Montreal to go watch him play, and that was fun. And then Province, I had a number of players, I probably had 12 to 15 that played in the National Hockey League, so it was hard to follow them all the time, and some of the kids made the Olympic teams off there, some of those players there, and then up here, of course, we had Curtis, McLean, and Keith Aucoin. And we had so much fun following Keith because our season was over, and they were in the playoffs, and he won the Stanley Cup with the Hurricanes, Carolina Hurricanes. So we followed that right up to the end. Then he played for the Capitals. Of course, the Capitals won it this year, but back then they played the Bruins in the quarterfinal, and they knocked the Bruins out, and the Bruins were picked to beat them. And Keith played a big role in it. So we're eating dinner one night, and they had the game on, and we had it taped away, so we'd watch it after dinner. And my phone was there, and we're eating, and you hear ding, 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 ding. I'm going, what the hell's wrong with the phone? Sean looks at it, she goes, you just got about 25
Oh, really?
text messages. So we turned on the phone. Keith just got an assist
Oh,
against the
awesome.
Bruins, and the announcer made a big deal of that. He played for me at Norwich.
Oh, cool.
And you know, coming from a Division III program, and I knew the announcer very well,
Nice.
so that did help a little
So
bit.
they
but,
tracked you down.
Yeah.
Cool.
So all the people who were watching the game,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, texting.
most of them alumni, and I was quite proud of that, obviously. And Keith just retired this year, 39 years old, after an incredible professional career, and of course, he had a great career with us.
Great. Oof, that's a long time playing, though.
He
you
lasts a long
mentioned-
time.
You mentioned Bobby Orr before, and I remember, this must have been, I don't know how old I was. They had a overlay of him and all of his injuries over the years, and then they showed you what he looked like if all the injuries could be seen. It wasn't pretty.
He
just
played
got-
hard.
Yeah, he got beat up pretty bad over the years.
Well, you know, he took chances rushing the puck, and guys
Right.
would clip him, and it was hard to stop him fairly, you know. So
Yeah.
a
That
lot
was
of times
really
he
an
got tripped.
enlightening picture of what they go through over the years.
It's a tough
It is,
sport, you
yeah.
know.
Yeah.
People talk about football. Football is, I think, by far the toughest physical sport. After that, hockey, no question
Yeah.
about it. The longevity of the season, it's long, it's physical. They have to wear equipment. There's boards. They're flying out there, so when they collide, they're not
Right, no,
running.
exactly.
They're, you know.
Yeah, they're going fast. yeah.
And but hockey players are brought up that way, and if you don't want to be part of it, they usually get weeded out at a certain age.
Right.
That I don't want to play that game.
Yeah.
But I think at least that's why it's one of the most exciting games in the world. Is that it is the most exciting
Right.
game. You have every aspect of it. You've got skating, which is a separate identity in itself.
Right.
And then you got stick handling, you got good passing, you got great teamwork, and you got physical play too, which I kind of like a little bit, not crazy. You know, I don't like the fight. I don't think you need to fight in the game. But good checking's great. And you get the goaltending that can be exciting, making
Right.
big saves, and the crowd's getting into it. They're right on top of you.
There was
One of the things I love about hockey compared to other sports is how quickly the game can turn around. Because you can be down, you know, by 3 points and still come back and win it in just a few minutes if you just time it right and you get the right opportunities. Because I mean, you can get up and down that ice so quickly compared
Well,
to
the
really,
transition's incredible.
Yeah, it's just so quick. It can be from one end to the other
The
in
puck
just a couple
changes
seconds.
every
Oh, right,
2 seconds.
exactly.
Every
Yeah.
2 seconds, the puck changes.
Yeah. It
Whether
just
it's
makes
to
it
another
exciting.
person or whatever, but it changes. It does. There's no, like basketball, you can dribble the puck, ball up, you know, and you got to make your passes. Hockey is you can't. You got to move that puck quicker because they're right on you. They're so
Right.
fast and everything, and there's checking. So that's why you train your players for that transition with all your drills and, you know.
I have a very good friend of mine lives up in Canada, and he's a referee, and they bring him all over Canada because that's something you have to be good at too because it goes so fast, and he calls them pretty good, so they drag him all over the place.
Well, if you're a good referee,
Yeah.
you'll find a job.
Yeah, that's what he does. Well, anyway, so,
Well, my wife and I have been going to Norwich games for years. I don't think we missed any home games last year even. And we often comment on like how well put together the Norwich players are. You can just tell the way that they hold themselves, is different than a lot of the other teams that they play. So really, one of the things I'm most interested in is what values do you instill and expect from your players? Because clearly there's something that you're doing differently than what other coaches are doing.
Well, I think the little things, doing the little things right. Yeah, in the locker room, all your equipment is put in a certain way. The rug is cleaned every night. You know, who's got that job, that responsibility? You have to do that job. If I come in here, I'll fire you. Won't get you, some of them have work study and they get paid to, do skates or clean the locker room instead of having the maintenance guys do it. And they don't get a lot of money for it, but the whole thing is forget the money, the pride of keeping that locker room clean all the time. I ran the rink for years. I oversaw the rink. I designed half of it myself. So I took great pride in the rink. In the rink, people know I have 3 rules. Keep it clean, and keep it clean. And hockey rinks have a tendency to get dirty, scuffed up because of the clientele and the whole idea of the fans coming in and spilling things.
Right.
And our guys do just a tremendous job. If you go to the games, you walk in there, it looks like it did 20 years ago. It's in
Right.
nice shape.
Yeah.
And I'm very proud of the fact of that. Well, the same with your players. Take pride in your rink, take pride in your locker room, take pride in the way you wear your uniform, take pride in your national anthem. You stand there and you stand still.
Yes, you coach.
Yeah.
There's no wiggling, and there's nothing like that.
Right.
And other teams, many other teams have followed that pattern. And that's one of the proudest things I've got, is a number of coaches have written me and told me, and you can see it on the
Yeah.
ice. And years ago, they'd be twitching and the pros do that because they hear it so many times, and I understand that, and I'm not being critical of that. What we do at Norwich, that's our identity. That's what we stand for, and that's what we do.
Yeah, I have to say, when we go to the Labor Day parade and all the cadets come over the hill, I cry every year. I'm just a goof. I can't stand. I love watching them. You just feel the pride.
Impressive.
It is. It's amazing.
I can't help but nitpick the ones that are out of
Oh,
step.
no, not me.
'Cause I did that.
I cry
Some of the
because I
rooks.
think it's amazing.
Yeah, the rooks.
They just started, yeah.
I know,
they
yeah,
did
they're like
that.
3 weeks in, and they're
Yeah.
like, what is cadence? I'm sorry.
Oh no, they just have it. You can just feel
Oh,
it.
our people
Yeah.
in
You can feel
the Corps of Cadets and our military people, I know it's a second to none. They do an
Right.
incredible
Great.
job.
So we were just, all the things you were talking about, you, besides everything else you do, you teach a leadership course at Norwich. And I'm sure the things that you teach in that course get applied while you're coaching, for
Oh, yes,
sure.
I mean, it's a buildup of years of experience. You know, I'm an on-ground leader. I've been there, and I coach. It's like having a military guy teaching leadership who's already been in the military,
Right.
been through war, been through training and so forth like that. They're there. They're on, you know, academic people who teach you, who just, you know, read books and stuff. They're great too. But I think experience certainly helps a lot. And I've had enough experience at it. I've gone through a lot of different people that I've used as mentors, psychologists and coaches and teachers that I felt that I would like to do something like that. I taught at New Hampton School for 6 years. And I enjoy teaching. I enjoy public speaking, and I enjoy sharing what knowledge I have, and hopefully help some guys and women along the way.
There's a book in your future, isn't there, Coach?
or
I don't
something.
know, that sounds like a great intro.
Well, I think, you know, there's so many people in both the Vermont community and the greater, you know, even the national hockey community that have so much respect for you and your program. And clearly you don't earn that overnight. And you have been a leader in both the central Vermont area as well as, you know, as on the national hockey stage. And people pay attention to that.
Well, you know, as you're going through it, you're not looking for that so much. You're trying just to get a program together. Any program I've coached at. I just try to do the right things, and I never looked at the kids to like me. I never wanted them to be my buddy. I wanted them to respect me and do what I told them to do. And but I never felt that that was in the cards until a few years ago. I came home to my wife and I said, "Geez, I think the kids like me." And she said,
What do I do with that?
What's wrong with that? And I said, "Well, you know, that's great, I guess, but I hope they still."
I bet they never wanted to disappoint you either, I bet.
No, and in the letters I received in the last week or two from former players were absolutely incredible. I mean, it meant a lot to me to hear them speak about what they do in business now with what the concepts that we taught as far as discipline, organization, and being passionate and being accountable and so forth, like doing your job and being responsible, all those things. A number of pro guys sent me letters. Ray Sherrill, who's the general manager of Devils, sent me a great letter. Tommy Fitzgerald, just talked about him. He's the assistant general manager there. Sent me a beautiful letter. And that's very important. I mean, that's, at the end, it's nice to have that when you retire. During the course of the time, I really didn't need, I didn't need that. That was not, I didn't need a lot of thank yous. I don't think you had time for that. You wanted to just make sure you were staying ahead of the ball all the time and making sure you were doing things right, and don't get caught up on your championships and your wins that much, because success is do every day. It's
Yeah.
do every
Right.
day.
Right.
And what you were yesterday isn't what you are today. You have to earn it.
Well, it sounded like you set the bar, you made it very clear what your expectations were, and they didn't want to disappoint you, and they met those expectations.
Something you said resonated with me, which is the fact that you don't set out to be their friend. I
Good
coach.
parenting advice, I think.
Yeah, exactly. I coached high school swimming for a number of years, high school and middle school swimmers, and I never was trying to be their buddy, right? Every day I went in and it's like, all right, can we get you to swim a half second faster than you did last week? You know, and that's how you measure success on those day-by-day things. And you that improvement, you know, and if you make a connection with your players along the way, I think that can be positive if they're looking up to you and they're respecting you. But you know, it's interesting how those two kind of, you know, you're looking for the respect and the improving them and giving them feedback to improve themselves.
I do think you have to change too. Coaching 46 years, I'm not the same coach I was 46 years ago. 46 years ago, I was a very strong disciplinarian that rebuilt programs, that brought in kids, recruited hard, rebuilt them, got them into good schools. You know, when I was coaching prep school, my goal was to make sure they got in the best school if possible and so forth. And now, I mean, and winning, just winning, fairly, you know, not just desperately and stuff like that, recruiting good players. I think in the last 10 years, and I say this to a lot of coaches, if you want to last, and I've lasted quite a long time, I couldn't have done it the way I was doing it 20 years ago,
Right.
the last 20 years. I have changed, and I think I listen more, I delegate more, and I'm a little more patient. Now, my wife might not agree with that, but I am more patient now, and I feel more at ease. And that can help your nerves and so forth, and to make yourself a better coach, more confident. You're not coming off as desperate all the time. And so I think that's an important lesson for a new coach. You know, start out, you can have all that vigor and go like hell and press and so forth, but you can't do it all the time. You've got to figure a way to have balance and to be a very, very good teacher, and the kids respect that. They want to be taught. The kids today, people say, well, they're different now. Well, the kids I got, we're lucky. They're really good kids.
Right.
Most of them are very good students. They're very disciplined in their health. They eat well, they act well, and they're willing to contribute to the community and to other people.
What a
So,
pleasure.
yeah, that in itself makes it enjoyable.
Right, for sure.
So it's interesting because you just hit on another thing, was the academic performance of the students. You've always, and we touched on this earlier a little bit, but you've always placed a high level of expectation on your players in terms of how they perform academically. Why was that so important, other than, you know, the rigor of discipline and whatnot? Why is it so important that they perform well academically as well as on the ice?
Well, it avoids another distraction. You know, as your coach, you have
Right.
distractions, and you know, there's always sometimes problems, and adversity is huge, and don't think you're not going to get it, and sometimes it comes in surprise forms and so forth, that you find out a kid did this, or you get a call from the dean, you know. Being at universities and prep schools, I've seen it all, almost. So, that being said, if you have good students and you know they're going to classes every day, then you know they're not out drinking at night, and they're responsible with their grades, and they're going to classes. And you know, I have a rule: go to all classes. Now, kids have broken that rule before, and I've had kids that I've sat out and I've bounced out at Norwich that I've sat out for the semester. They haven't played, and one's one of my favorite kids of all time, and you know, he came back the second semester and he had a great senior year, and right now does very well in his business and so forth. But you know, they learn. Kids make mistakes. They do make mistakes. Being that said, you know, if you've got a kid that makes fewer mistakes because he is a very good student and he's responsible, you don't have to spend that, that's one less
Less
person
to
you have
worry
to spend
about, right,
time with.
right.
Not that you shouldn't give them attention. Sometimes that happens too. As parent, you always spend time with the kid that gives you the toughest time, and the other kid gets ignored because.
What about me?
The squeaky wheel gets the oil, right?
Exactly. So there's just such a laundry list of milestones that you've made. I think you're only 3 wins away from tying with Bob Peters, that I'm sure our viewers know, as the 6th for all-time NCAA career coaching victories. So are there any milestones that you're especially proud of, and maybe ones that you have not reached that you'll be thinking about? Or?
No, I don't resent, like, I feel good, I'm healthy,
Right.
my team is coming back as a good team. We're gonna have a good winning team this season, and the new coach is gonna do a great job. Could I have stayed in a couple more years and gone up higher? Yes, there's no question. I could have probably gone to number 4 or something like that, all-time winning coach, and you think about that. But right now, I don't resent that at all. I've made a lot of accomplishments. I think one of the reasons I'm retiring is for both myself and the program. I think it's a win-win situation. I think the timing of bringing in a new coach couldn't be better. We have all our assistants coming back. President Snyder's there for a couple more years. Frank and Tony Mariano are there. They're going to get support.
That's good.
Once they leave, things change, new presidents, new administration, who knows what's going
Right.
to happen. So let's get a guy in there now so he gets a little confidence under his belt and has some success early and keeps on going.
But you're obviously ready, which is a good thing. Retirement is not for the weak of heart, may I say.
Haven't you retired like 3
no,
times?
I've retired several times. But just I wasn't ready, and I think you sound like you're ready, and that's a very good thing.
Well, I had a coach from Harvard, Billy Cleary, great Olympian, great coach at Harvard. I saw him down the Cape a few years ago, and he had retired. And I said, Billy, and I coached against him for many years. I said, you retired. I was a little surprised when you did retire. I said, how'd you know? He goes, you will just know.
Yeah,
He said,
right.
you'll just know, Mike. You'll get a feeling. And this year, after the season was over, and it was a week or two, I said to my wife, I said, I think this is it. And she, are you sure? I said, if I'm feeling it right now,
That's good.
and I said, I think we got to sit down and make a plan, and we did.
Yeah, good. That's a good thing.
Well, you're leaving the team in a great spot. There's a lot of talent. You could see that this past year. There was a lot of talent on the team, and they weren't always on the same page, I think. But there's a lot of talent there, and I think they're in a good spot.
Yeah, there we are. We had a lot of graduated 10 kids the year before, and I thought about retiring the year before. After you win a national championship.
Yeah, but-
Yeah, exactly.
Leave on a
I think
high.
there's some people that are a little surprised you didn't retire
Yeah.
last year.
Well, there were.
Yeah.
And I thought about it, and I said, I'm going to leave somebody in a tough position that they've got to replace these kids, and they're
Right.
going to come in new. And I said, I think I've been fortunate in this program. I'm staying for another year, and let's build it up a little bit, and then I can plan. And I really wasn't sure I was going to retire this year. I thought I might go one more year because I was really enjoying the season. And I liked our young kids, and I saw, a nice future, and I got involved. I didn't miss a step during the year. I never felt during the whole entire year, I should have retired. I was as eager, and I coached as well as I've ever coached. And I felt the same with my assistants. So I felt good about that. But then after the season, it was a few weeks after the season too, I was going to go down and see my grandchildren and my daughter and my son. They're down in Florida, and I don't see them that much.
Right.
And I think my priorities should change right
Good
now.
for you. That's a good thing, Coach.
Thank you.
It is. No, really. I envy you. I wasn't at that spot, and it's hard. So, but you're going to stay a little involved, though, right?
Oh, yeah. I
Because
plan
you've got
and teaching the class next
right.
year.
Oh, okay.
And I was up 5:30 this morning, by the way, teaching young kids at the hockey school.
It's very dark at 5:30.
No,
I don't get up at 5:30.
well, anyway, we get up early, and I had to go in and work with our hockey school. We have kids in there now, 9 to 16. So I made a commitment to continue with the hockey school for at least the next 4 or 5 years. and I enjoy that. I enjoy working with the coaches, and that's what I do mostly, is work with the coaches there and help them. But I give a leadership lecture to some of the young kids, and they like it. I've got 2 lectures tomorrow, and then I'm on the ice tomorrow at 6:50, so we got that going. So I said to my wife, I come home, I was tired, because we're trying to pick a hockey coach now,
Right.
too, so I'm doing an interview.
So
and I'm Raleigh.
so how does that, you're, what is, one of 4?
One of the 4,
One of the 4,
yeah,
so-
selection committee members.
Will
Yeah,
you
well,
know him
yeah.
or her when you see him or her? I just threw that her in, just in case. But when will you see?
We get a feeling on a few.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about this for a little while, so I do. And some applications, we just went over some today that came in, and we're making some calls. So we want to get. And personally, I'm taking a big part in it, and the president wants me to, because I know the coaches out there.
I was going to say, you
Right.
seem like you really know the community.
The networking, I know
yeah.
a lot of the coaches, and I've coached in every level, and so I got a pretty good rapport with that. So we're waiting now to another week to see how the applications go, and then we're going to pick a few and bring them up and have them interviewed by the selection committee, and then we're going to bring in a couple of players,
Oh,
the
good.
team this year, to interview them also.
That's important.
Yes, and we're going to get a real good coach, and they're going to do very well.
Well, he's certainly stepping in some really big shoes.
He's got some big shoes to
Yeah,
fill.
for
It's
sure.
all right. We'll get someone that knows how to do it, and like I said, all my assistants are coming back, and we have a good team. So
Can I ask you, before you were talking, it's not actually on our questions, but do you go out and find players to come to Norwich? Do you do
Oh,
a lot of that?
all the players,
Do you?
every kid's recruited.
Oh, okay. Do you do that personally, or your
I do some
assistants
of it,
do
and
you?
I have assistant coaches that do it too.
Right.
So.
You bring them on for that weekend in Norwich and meet
Oh,
everybody.
that's what we do.
and-
Yeah. And
There's
you
been
wanna-
movies about that.
Yes.
Well, you bring them. Most of the kids that come in with their parents after a weekend at Norwich commit.
Right,
They've seen a great show, and
right.
we usually win. And they see
Great.
the atmosphere. They hang around with the kids. They get an idea, and we try to bring in the right players that are going to fit into our school. I
Yeah.
think that's very, very important. Norwich is a different school.
It is.
Yeah, it's a
and
military
I
school.
don't think
yeah.
we realize how lucky we are to have Norwich here and graduates from Norwich. There you go.
There's quite a few of us around.
There are.
You know? So, what are your hopes and fears, regarding the handover of the team to a new coach? What are you hoping for the team and the coach, and what are some of the things you might be afraid of handing it over?
I really don't have any fear, because I think there's enough interest that we're going to get someone has a lot of skill and has experience and compassion for the game, and is a good competitor, and the kids we have are going to accept them. They're good kids. I've talked to every kid that's returning and all the recruits. I didn't get one hesitant from any of them after talking to them for a long time about where the program was going to be. And I think they all felt comfortable about it. I hope they did anyway. And I talked to a number of alumni. I've made a lot of calls, and because there's obviously concern, But I really do feel, I think if the kids perform the way they can, and the support from the school continues, which I think is going to be there, I see the thing continuing.
And I think one of the things that a lot of people want to know, and I have to tell you, everyone that I've talked to that are like, oh, you're interviewing coach, and it's like, when does it air? And we want to watch it. Like we've never had, at least I've never had that kind of reaction to one of our guests, because people want to know, are you going to be involved in the program at any level, and going forward?
Only in a supportive role. I'll probably stay on the Blue Line Club to help support the team with functions and stuff like that, but only in a back role. The new coach comes in, you've got to give him his leeway. You're not the coach
Right.
anymore. I'll be a fan. I'll go to the games with my wife and watch them at least for the first semester. Enjoy them, support them. And if the coach reaches out for any ideas or thoughts about things, and I'll be there for them. But that's it.
Yep.
Be a resource.
Well, you have to explain to me, what's the Frozen Four? Sorry.
The Frozen
What's
Four
the Frozen Four?
is a takeoff from the Final Four in basketball, the last 4 teams. It's a play down.
Oh, I see.
So in basketball and hockey, Division I, they have 16 teams. And then they go to 8, and then they go to the Final Four, and they go to one site, and they have a semifinal and a final for the championship.
Cool.
We do the same thing, only we have 12 teams that make the nationals, but we do have
That's
we used
the
to call it the
Frozen
Final
Four.
Four, now we call it the Frozen
Frozen
Four,
Four.
just so
Okay.
people can.
I felt bad, I didn't know, but
Getting some
But I'm gonna
hockey
ask
terminology
anyway.
There
down.
might some people listen and say,
well, I'm
"Gee,
sure.
glad
I
you
always
did."
figure I can't ask too many stupid questions because there's somebody out there thinking the same way I am. So anyway, I have to tell everybody, if you go to vtdigger.com and you look up the coach's name, they have a list of his accomplishments, which is almost a page and a half long. It goes on forever. And the one I love the most is you finished your career with 741 career coaching victories. That's a lot of games. He laughs.
She
because
didn't mention the losses, but
no, you don't look at those.
What losses?
You just learned from them, Coach, right?
Yeah.
Which allowed you to do 741. Good grief.
thank you,
That's,
thank you.
that's really impressive.
Well, that says a lot for the support I've had and the programs that I've worked at. I mean, all the schools that you mentioned are great schools, great hockey schools, and you know, if you surround yourself with good people, you got a lot better shot of winning.
Well, that's
and I've
always
been
true.
very fortunate enough in my personal life, my friends, my family, my wife, the people I work with, the people I work for, top notch. And that has a lot to do with the whole thing of success. And I teach that in my leadership class. You've got to surround yourself with people that are on the same plane with you or higher.
Right.
So you keep moving and you got goals, set your goals, measure them, and work at them every day.
I always remember when I was learning tennis, they said you've always got to play with somebody better, or you're never going to get any better.
There's
So
some
Right, you
truth
need
to
someone
that.
to push
right.
you.
There's truth to
Exactly.
that. Yeah.
That's great.
So what's next for you? You're gonna do some of these hockey camps with the kids. You're gonna continue teaching the leadership class. What else are you doing to keep yourself busy or involved? Now.
Well, I read Tiger Woods' book recently. There's a book that just came out on Tiger Woods,
Yeah.
and it wasn't very favorably to him as a person, and kind of critical, but as a athlete and what he did when he was younger and how he developed his skills and so forth like that. And Tiger Woods' father would bring him and sit him on a bench, and Earl Woods, his father, was a good golfer in himself. And he would swing, and Tiger would just watch him swing all the time, and he had a good swing. And so they talked about emulating the swing,
Right.
and it was programmed in his brain. He's a very bright guy anyway. And the discipline he learned as a young, well, I've got a grandchild who's coming up now.
Uh-oh.
The other funny thing,
How small do they make those skates?
one of the things my buddy said though, he said, "And you're going to let him see your swing?"
That's great. Got the
It's
little
not
guy out
that
on the
bad.
skates.
But
already.
anyway, I've got ambitions to spend a lot of time working with my grandson.
That's great. Good for
I
you.
can coach him.
There you go.
It's the next project, next
Exactly.
adventure.
Well,
Well-
we'll see how long that lasts. My daughter will probably be all over me and everything.
Now they're
but-
in Florida, though, right? Is
Yeah,
that-
yeah. So it gives me a chance in January to go down there.
But
and
they've
spend
been
some
up to
time.
see you in action, have they not? And,
They have, but
yeah.
they can't get up that
Yeah,
much
that-
with
yeah,
their
no, it's-
jobs
it's
and,
quite a
and
trip.
work. They, it's too
Well,
difficult.
good for you, Grandpa.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's my favorite job anyway, being grandma. So there you go. So we only have a couple minutes left. Is there anything else you would like to talk about that we haven't covered, because you have
No, just
quite the career?
I would like to thank the community, the Central Vermont community. I said this at my press conference about we are Central Vermont's team. We've worked hard at that, and the media certainly has helped us in that regard. Getting that recognition has spread the good word, and our players continue to stay at a high level. And you can maintain things as long as you have your checks and balances and keep an eye on the ball. And I think our program is going to do that.
That's great. Well, it's just been an honor. I have to tell you, I was up at Thunder Road, and I talked to Ken Squires, and I said you were coming on the show, and we had quite the chat. I can't repeat it, but it was very complimentary for sure.
I've had a lot of fun with him.
Yes, exactly. Well, he's going to miss you.
Thank you,
Anyway,
Beth.
thank you very
very
much.
much,
I
Beth.
appreciate it.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much.
Thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you next week, and in the meantime, keep listening beyond the sound bites.